back, YouTube, to Peterson Auto. Got a progress update on the dolly build. Yeah, that's some airline tubing there. So, starting to run some of the plumbing. We have a fill and a dump valve for the rear air suspension here. Yes, they'll clear because I'm putting a flatbed on top of these wood rails here, so they'll clear with no issues. That'd be a horrible location if you're running a pickup bed, but you could always mount them to the frame rail, etc. I just liked up there because they're going to be very well protected from any kind of moisture and water getting up here. They're still going to be easily accessible. So, you know, very good location for my particular build. On yours, you may want to think it out a little further. Give you a quick rundown of the routing there. This line here just kind of goes back over in the corner. That is the dump vent. So actually it comes down around and gets zip tied. Oh, it's zip tied underneath here somewhere. Right over here. There we go. Where my fingers are. It just kind of points down. So when I dump the bags, air is going to go out that line, loop around and go out down through here. I'm pointing in general down direction. I'm not blowing dirt off of anything underneath the truck or whatnot with it, so, you know, just that kind of theory. Don't know how well it's going to work as far as, you know, keeping dirt off the truck, but hey, it'll at least be pointing down, I know that much. Maybe I'll make a cool little poof that'll, you know, like, look cool when I air the bags down. Maybe. I don't know. But I got both valves mounted here. So that's a good start. The other one is the fill valve, which is right here. This line runs up, around, under that cross member, and over here where the tank's going to be mounted in this general vicinity. So I also have the blue line there. Blue line runs across the cross member and up into the cab to another solenoid, which is going to be for the air horn. After this, now we have a line running from the fill and the dump to it. Well, it's a Y, but to a like T fitting here, or a Y fitting. In my case, the Y works. And then down to a single line, and then down to another Y fitting. An H fitting would work very well there. I didn't have one. I'm not concerned about filling these things up at an extreme rate. So that is what it is. This here fitting has one line in it now, which is going to run down there through the frame into the bag that's going to be sitting right here. The other end's going to run back around and up, or over there and up. I don't know for sure. Something to that extent. Go through that hole right there into the other bag. So there's our airline plumbing so far for the rear suspension. Another cool thing I got going on here, it's kind of heavy, is, once it stays, there we go, YouTube, we have an airbag mount. So, yeah, this thing is pretty heavy. Maybe I'll stay like that. No, it's not liking me. There we go. This is a 1/4 inch plate for the uprights, piece of 1/8 inch plate back here. Look inside there. It's a piece of 1/8 inch plate gusseting it there. 1/8 inch plate goes right here, as you can see from the heat mark. Fully welded everywhere, inside and out. The only place I didn't do is right here by where the washer is going to be. I'm not sure how much clearance I'm going to have, but I did weld it on the inside. So there's going to be no chance of water getting into this little box in here and rotting it out from the inside. So, yeah. Really heavy duty. Had these plasma cut by a local shop. I think it's called Steel and Metal Supply in Pottsville, Pennsylvania. Great people. Really nice to work with. I buy a lot of stuff from them, honestly. I buy all my steel from them. You know, all my bar stock and round stock and square stock and angle. All that gets bought from them. Most of it, they actually have a quote-unquote scrap pile which is smaller cuts and drops that aren't necessarily being able to be sold as a full unit. So I pick a lot out of there. Cool thing with that, they have a lot of like, they'll do a lot of like cuts of something for a commercial customer who needs, you know, pieces of angle that are, say, you know, 2 foot, and well, actually we'll say 3 foot. So I'll have 1 foot pieces of angle left over, 2-inch pieces of angle. They had a whole bunch of 2-inch pieces of angle there, which is what I used here. And I used that to get the right height, actually, 2 pieces of angle. Fully welded on both sides. So we're good there. But I did use that angle to get the right height. And they have a bunch of stuff like this, usually in their drops. And just picking up pieces of angle that size for brackets, it's awesome. They had like 30 of them there one day. I picked them up. There's one. You know, just 30 of these, all the same size. And you're paying pretty much scrap price for it. And that's like just great for any kind of bracket or frame mount, whatever you need. Easy, quick piece. Love it. But they have a lot of stuff like that. They have a lot of stuff pre-drilled with holes in it. You know, they have a lot of square plates, 8x8 square plates. You know, 6x6, 4x4, all different sizes, already pre-cut. But this was a custom thing they cut out. Did a very good job on it. Edges weren't perfect, but the holes are very, very clean. So that is definitely, you know, going to work really well. I have multiple hole locations in here for adjustability. I'm going to find one I like, set it, and forget it. So my plan with this is to figure out which one I like the best as far as the performance of the suspension goes. You know, I'm probably going with this one here, and then the top one to start with for the 2 links. Oh, it's going to be 4-link, by the way. I need to remove that piece, spring hanger, and get them to make me one of those that'll bolt in place of there, pretty much. But it's going to be 4-link. It's going to have the adjustability. I'll be able to fine tune it to get the exact performance I want, because I don't know the exact center of gravity on this. Unfortunately, the way to do it involves scales that I don't have, and a bunch of other complex stuff. And with a big engine, big transmission, it's very front heavy actually, with a flatbed on the rear, you know, and then I could get everything perfect and then go and put 8,000 pounds on the rear end of this thing and run into issues. So that's why I want that adjustability. I can fine tune it to what I need. Once I find something I really like, then I got these fancy weld washers, which are not within my arm's reach at this time. But they're like weld-on washers that I'm going to put on each of the holes and weld them on nice and solid, and then have a very thick, like 1/2-inch plate around that each hole I plan on using the majority of. So this is the original spring perch. It's going to bolt with U-bolts right down there. Try to get it in place for you quick. Okay, YouTube, that was a lot harder to do one-handed than I thought, so I had to put the camera down. There's how the bracket's going to be. We're going to have a factory-style U-bolt here, probably a little shorter, but still factory-style U-bolt here. And our link bars are going to come out from these cross. We're going to have 2 of them. It's right about in here somewhere. I've been messing with the geometry and everything and seeing how it'll all work out. You know, I think a slight slope won't be too much of a problem, so I'll probably put one about here and then one about down here at the factory location. I got these wonderful Heim links here from Rough Stuff, actually, and they're pretty damn good quality. I'm happy with them. You know, I'll have to see how they perform and everything. I know they're going to be fairly solid. I'm debating doing bushings on the frame end. I do have some from Rytech here that I could actually use. The reason I went with these is because they're 2-inch width, and they'll hold up to whatever abuse I put them through. Due to the bolts, I couldn't get this plate bent, so we had to go with the 2-inch width to fit the bracket between the U-bolts there, so I'd still have access to them and whatnot. So that being said, that's a rear suspension bracket. We have Heim joints. also have the DOM tubing. If we turn around, we can see a pile of that with a pile of other junk. Big old DOM tubing. This stuff is 1/4-inch wall, 1.5 inch. No, 1.75 inch. 1/4-inch wall, 1.75 inch DOM tubing. Heavy, heavy stuff. So I don't think we're going to have any issues with that. There's the plate they cut everything out of for the brackets. And yeah, they do give you your scrap, or your drops, as they're called, back. So really, like, it's called Joseph. It was called Joseph Fazio's. It's like Steel and Metal Supply or something in Pottsville, PA. Really like them. Highly recommend them. You know, so if you're in the PA area, definitely look them up. I think they have other stores around, like Maryland and New York and whatnot. So you may be able to find one near you. But the one in Pottsville, great, great people. Yeah, so other updates we have going on here. We take a meander around. I don't know if I covered this before. Interior's getting together. I don't know. You know, I gotta find some of the right screws for this. So it's kind of going together as I find them. Still waiting on the dash pod, you know, to get done. Carpets in. We talked about that before, I think. Carpets from, I don't remember where I actually bought it, but it's the ACC carpet, actually. You bought it from LMC Truck or something, but it's an ACC carpet. Fitment is pretty good on it, actually. I set it in here roughly where it needed to be, let it lay for a couple of days, you know, and just trimmed it up. You can see where I trimmed it here, about a finger width. I could trim it back further because the door sill plate's going to cover the majority of that, as you can see. But I'd rather have a little more than not enough, so I left it at that. The other theory I have is these channels here are known to collect dirt. Hopefully a little more carpet will help stop any dirt from coming in there. Let's move around front. Engine stuff is getting together. Wiring's getting routed neatly and organized and nicely. You know, the heater box is still kind of just sitting there. Gotta find a good way to mount that. I do need to modify the downpipe. You know, that's on the list of things to do. And we are working on putting some wiring in over here, getting that routed up in place. You know, gradually putting everything where it needs to be, and figuring out locations for stuff. I usually work on this, you know, when waiting on something to cool down or whatnot. As we meander over here, here are those weld washers I was talking about on the bracket. I got them from Rough Stuff. They're pretty much just a really thick washer. It has a 45-degree bevel on it. So yeah, you can weld to that. Weld them onto whatever bracket you're using. Over here is my horribly failed attempt at bending a new tube for the turbo oil feed. I kinked it. So yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. I might just find an actual tubing bender, because I was just being too lazy and couldn't find one. Some more bracketry laying around here. Got more bracketry over there. So if you take a look in here, may or may not have covered it. It may or may not be too dark. It looks too dark. But right down here behind the driver's side seats where I mounted that solenoid, somewhere. There it is. Yeah, it's even under the carpet right now. And it'll probably remain there, actually. That's a solenoid for the air horn. Air horn's going to be mounted down on the frame. I was going to put it on the roof, but it's just not happening, you know. Having it on the roof is just going to be a little too much of a pain in the rear. You know, it's a clearance issue. It's going to have to be kept clean and pretty. But mounted down below, it's hidden, stealth, looks clean. So I'm going with that route. As far as starting this engine up here now, which I know you've all been waiting on this, and I know I've been slacking, and I do apologize. Let you know what I have to do. Power steering pump is down here below this light. I need to get some long bolts to put that in. It's kind of just sitting in its hole where it goes right now. Oh, power steering return line is fully routed. Just needs hooked up to its correct locations on respective components. And I need to put the inner fender in over on the other side there. There's the reservoir. The reservoir is off of a international truck. It's got two nipples on the bottom. One is pretty big and one is sort of small. Small one is going to run as the feed. And the big one's going to be where all the devices, like the Hydro Boost there, and the power steering for the actual gearbox return to. So, that being said, our pump is mounted, and it is there. Just needs the bolts in it, and lines hooked up. That I can do, I can just bolt it in place and run it. I need to put oil in it, I think. I don't remember, I'll have to check. I think I forgot to put oil in it. There's that turbo oil line, goes back way down there in the hole by the oil filters. There you go, you can see that little fitting right there. So it goes back down in there. I need to make that line, get it done up and whatnot. That's one key thing. I need to get the exhaust somewhat on. You know, honestly, I could even stick it out here just to test start it and move it around if I wanted, so that's not too big of a deal. Other than that, there's not much that needs to be done to actually test start it again and maybe take it, you know, in and out of the garage on its own power. To move it, I need to finish the suspension, obviously. And a lot of my time's been developing that suspension system lately, so, you know, unfortunately, it's a bit overly complex. If I put all the time to explain that to you, it'd probably be a couple hours of video and a lot of math and, you know, that boring stuff. If anyone is interested and there's enough demand, I'll gladly make one. It's just one of those boring, you're learning school-like videos. So I didn't really bother with that. Coolant system is still open, you know, so we got one port here. Gotta tighten this fitting, and I gotta make the lower water neck there again. You know, but I don't need coolant to test run it. This thing's huge. By the time it would take without coolant even to heat up, I can get it in and out of the garage and maybe around the block twice before it even gets hot. So that's not too much of a concern. I do need to mount batteries. Again, test run, test started. I can do that without batteries. This thing does not need batteries to run. This just needs them to start. Does not need them to run. So I could even just jump start it pretty much and call it a day. I am debating on batteries. I'm thinking of doing 3 batteries, either the Group 31s or the Group 65s. That would be a factory battery in this truck. Have 1 mounted here, 2 mounted over there, something to that extent. Not 100% sure on that yet, but we are working on it. It is in the process, so as I develop that more, I'll let you know, and we'll see what we're going with. I know a lot of guys are running 2 batteries on these. We do have a couple old 466s and an old 308 at work. They are what they are, you know, but they all have 3 batteries, and I don't have a block heater in this. I do want to get a block heater before I put the coolant system all back together, which means I got to pull a freeze plug out, which that's why things aren't going together right now. It's because I don't know which freeze plug I'm going to be putting it in. Probably that one right there, but I don't know if it's going to actually work with one on that one or not, or what this standard location would be. So all that I'm going to have to actually do some research and find out. Once I get the block heater, I'll have instructions say, hey, put it here and make it nice and easy. But until then, I'm kind of in limbo mode with that. So I am going to have a block heater, but it's still one of those engines that doesn't have a cold start aid. So you just crank and crank and crank and crank and crank and crank and crank, and it fires and it chugs and it barely hits and barely misses, and it finally warms up and finally runs nice. Which is fine for me. I like that old school thing. I like the old school cold start sound. You know, these guys doing it with the power strokes. Yeah, I'm guilty. I think I did one with the power stroke. But the guys doing it with a power stroke are, you know, it is what it is. I'm not a fan of it. But the old school engines, no intake heaters, no glow plugs, no cold start method whatsoever. They're cool. They're great. I like those. And I will carry a can of ether because there is those times where it gets too cold. I will have it. But limited use on it, you know. That's why I want to have that block heater. If I'm at a place I can plug in, I will. So, yeah, just give me a quick rundown on that. I think we very well covered the updates right now. Oh, there is one more thing, YouTube. That is a transfer case. Why is that sitting there? Because here's our cross member. Made a cross member for the transfer case. Need to finish a couple welds up on it there by where those brackets mount that actually hold the transfer case. Need to trim those down. We've had nothing but straight rain here pretty much and high humidity for the last like 2 weeks, so that's in limbo mode. I really want to weld it with the 7018. I've done everything else on it with 7018. I don't want to have to run a 6011 or 6013 on that just because of humidity. So maybe later today I'll break it out the welder and see how it does. Maybe not. We'll see. But for now, we do have a cross member. It is mostly welded together. It needs painted and finished. This is going to mount inside the frame on the passenger side and then outside the frame over on the driver's side. And you can see that transfer case is offset almost to the frame, and that's so I can get around that big old 7-speed transmission that's in here. I did check my driveline angles and all, and they're looking pretty good. I tried to make a video on it, but it didn't work out as I thought. So, that being said, once I get it mounted up, I'll probably make another video and just explaining what I did, how I did everything, and you know, the processes involved for you. So, yeah, we got a transfer case going in soon. After that, I can measure for drive shafts and hopefully make this thing move under its own power. And that is my goal in the near future. So we'll see how that goal actually turns out. Once the weather breaks here, I think we'll be much, much better. Keep watching. Stay tuned. A lot more to do on this truck. A lot more cool stuff coming on the 96 also. I'm going to be busy all summer, I'll tell you that. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Peterson Auto.